Good stuff. Hope everyone is suitably caffeinated for this next session. Another session on AI, so very excited to get into this one. Today, guys, the session itself is on black box or glass box, building explainable AI in finance. As we know, AI is now embedded deeply within finance decision making. But as models grow more complex, the need for transparency, governance, and trust is greater than ever. In the session today, we're going to explore how finance leaders can strike that balance between innovation and explainability. Today, we're joined by Liz, Tatiana, and Daniel. I also want to open this up to the audience at the end to try and make it interactive. So I think there's some mics at the end. Please do feel free to ask myself or the panelists any questions that you have at the end. So to get us started, guys, would love for you to introduce yourselves, your names, your roles, and we'll go from there.
I can start. I'm Tatiana, I'm the CFO of Okhotina, account-to-account payments infrastructure for open banking technology.
Hi everybody, I'm Liz Kistruck. I'm the CFO of Motorway, which is the UK's largest consumer-to-business online car sales platform.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel Barnes. I'm the Director of Product and Customer Marketing at Gatekeeper. We're a contract and third-party management platform, and I'm a really big nerd, so I may nerd out about AI agents.
I'll direct most of the questions to you then anyway.
At least they know.
Okay, cool. So quite an open question to start here. We'd love to hear from all three of you. Where do you see the most value from AI today? Quite a big question.
I can go first here, if you want. There's a few areas. So I always very selfishly think about all the work I despise doing, which is any admin work, first and foremost, or any sort of validation work where I'm having to sift through lots and lots of different data sources. I would much rather be presented with a view of that, and I found agents and AI in general to be very capable, more capable probably than myself and most people I've ever worked with, getting me that data in an incredibly good format within seconds, and I find that to be a huge win.
I don't know what the greatest value is going to be. That to me is what's so exciting about AI. There's a guy called Nigel Toon who wrote a book about AI that's name I can't remember, but if you look on Amazon, Nigel Toon, and he has this analogy that AI, it's like electricity. When electricity was invented, they had no idea of all the things we would do with electricity. It was just a new thing. And we're going to go through that same revolution. So I actually have no idea, but I know it's going to be mind-blowing when we look back and imagine, well, how did we live, before we had that? But the thing that excites me the most is just the time that it gives back. And the most valuable thing I find in my job is talking to people. And so as much as I can find tools and help and improvement that gives me more time so I can spend more time on the important human interactions, that is massively beneficial.
Yeah, I just can add something, and great panels before. And I think being in the CFO shoes, you're not involved just in CFO tech stack, right? It's generally driving a strategy of the business. And where we see most impact is probably somewhere outside finance just yet. Just for other different reasons we're going to talk about, but majority of it is operations and automation of other different processes, which are easier, less risky, and probably easier to automate with some sort of semi-structured data set as well, and actually brings early ROI to the business rather than financial assets.
Yeah, awesome. And Tatiana, Liz, as CFOs, want to dig into this next point. So AI is often seen as a black box, right? What do you foresee as the real risks of using AI in financial processes like forecasting, expenses, control, credit assessment, without having that full explainability?
If you take a step back and look at AI, there is traditional AI models and LLM models, which are quite different things, right? So completely different species. The traditional AI and are generally built on the structured data, clearly labeled very enclosed environment, and they designed for specific purpose to solve some very narrow specific problem, right? It's an enclosed environment and normally delivers solid and explainable results. There will be some sort of decision tree and algorithm. It's easy to explain to auditors, or not easy, it requires some work on documentation, but it's explainable, it's auditable, it's used very well in risk assessment, in credit scoring, some sort of transaction predictability, fraud detection, and so on. There is something based on LLM technology, and there was a lot of LLM agents and a general LLM, so there are also two parts of it. One is LLM agents and technology, and you guys probably use a lot, and then there is a testing and verification of outputs of the using this LLM technology, and there is something which is completely Wild West. It's LLM models available widely to anyone, like ChatGPT, and all of us use ChatGPT and our team members use, right? So very different risk associated with all these three different subcategories, and if you dig deeper, there can be many more, obviously, of these different ways to look and different lenses, but risk associated with the classic AI predictive models, for example, is very different to what we see via AI agents on LLM basis used in the tooling we acquire for the business using specific business areas, and it's very different to using of ChatGPT and your, for example, senior accountant drafting some sort of tax strategy using ChatGPT. Don't take tax advice from ChatGPT in general, right? So these kind of things, there will be a number of different risks, and there is auditability and accountability for decisions that from the latter two parts and two types of AI probably creating more problem in general, and how do you solve it, and existing framework for governance obviously not designed to deal with this kind of problems. It's a new generation of risk management, and there is a legal implication, and there are regulatory implication, there is consumer duty, and also kind of different things, and how do you approach solving this is very different for different kind of business, depending what you do and how do you adopt AI for which specific use cases within the business.
I mean, it's obviously a big deal, and as CFOs, we're often very responsible for managing business risk, and you can't manage the risks if you don't understand. But risk is a well-developed process of identifying where large impacts would be, what likelihood is, and I think we will just continue to adapt those frameworks as we evolve. I think the tooling will evolve, like as products are brought to market for us to adopt. If we cannot explain it and pass audit, etc., we won't be able to adopt it. So they will have to evolve that. And it's much better if it comes from market pool rather than us then trying to layer something imperfect on top. So I think it will evolve, and it will continue to evolve very fast, as long as we keep those basic professional disciplines in place.
It's still very early days, but how do you foresee that evolving in the next 12 to 18 months of this?
I think it will continue to really vary by business, industry, life cycle stage. I mean, I'm in a scale-up that's very tech-enabled. I still have my founder as the CEO, so there's a real open mind to adopting and trying and pushing things. But I have worked in very traditional businesses where there isn't the same survival need to adopt fast, and actually there's an opportunity to wait and see and watch and adopt what is proven or acquire once things are proven. So I think it will depend, but it for sure is going to move really fast, and we have to stay very aware of the progress and when is the right moment for us to make the move and shift.
Yeah, awesome. Daniel, I wanted to come to you next and understand a bit more around how, in your role today, you're balancing the pressure for innovation and automation with the need for oversight and accountability at the same time?
Yeah, I actually think this one is an easier solve than probably most people consider. And the reason being is if you're using a fairly solid tool, most of these tools in terms of their AI or their agentic capabilities will require you to give it some sort of instruction. And that instruction could quite easily just be your internal policies, processes, ways of working, your review approval matrices, pretty much all of that documentation that I always think about that really no one in your business cares about apart from you, and you want everyone to follow it, and it's really difficult for them to follow it, and you're always dealing with it, you're always chasing people around all the time. AI is just phenomenal at doing this, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it gets it right every single time, and this is where the second layer comes in terms of any time that you have an AI make a decision or a judgment or does something on your behalf, it should always route to a human in the loop, so a human to approve it. So for example, all of our customers like Gatekeeper who are deploying agents right now, some of them are doing like finance verification, budgets versus contract amounts, really like kind of simple stuff to be honest around all of that, but it's just very arduous, time consuming, once again kind of boring to do, they've got loads of other work they need to get on with. The agents will make decisions and say yes, this is good, this is bad, vice versa, and it will always send it to the human for that final approval, the final judgment. And I think that's a really easy way you pair what the AI is really good at with all this, hopefully, artifacts that your business already has, and if you don't have it, it's a really good exercise to do, and human judgment as well.
Awesome. Moving on to the governance and framework side of things, Tatiana and Liz wanted to come to you as CFOs again on this. How are you managing cross-functional governance today when we talk about cross-functional implementation of AI or elementals? What do you trust? What should we not trust? And how do we approach it with that lens moving forwards?
I can share what we do at Token. So the first thing was creating just a classic AI steering committee, which is boring, but it brings all the right people across the org to the table. And obviously it's important to get all the security, the IT and compliance and regulatory expert in commercial and operations, and making sure that we all understand how AI is being not just adopted across the business, what are the use cases, what are the specific tooling, and what are the risks associated with each specific item. There's a number of openly available frameworks for looking at AI adoption. For example, Deloitte Trustworthy AI, a couple of other things. Essentially, it's a catalog of different frameworks and risks and mitigation measures you can also look at, and it's easy to somehow take some sort of existing framework already in place and not create something from scratch, but essentially it's cataloging every single use case and every single tool and solution, identifying the risk and identifying mitigation measures, making sure there is an owner of the whole process that manages the process, stakeholder input, and everyone is aware of inputs and which data flows, it's enclosed some sort of server environment, and all the right tools and solutions are deployed, so no one is doing something that's unexpected within the organization.
Yeah, all of that. And that particularly works well for the big implementations. I think the thing I always worry about is with a very entrepreneurial and innovative team, what are the secret squirrel things that are happening somewhere? That somebody with good intent is trying to solve a problem, but maybe going about it in the wrong way. My favourite thing for that is, under the guise of driving adoption of these techniques and giving kudos to people who are doing great things, give them a platform to share and teach everybody is a great way for me and the legal team to sit and see what everybody's doing, and then quietly, hang on a minute, we need to, before that gets rolled out or goes any further, we need to step in there.
And how, just on that point there, how wide in the organisation are you going there? Are you trying to involve as many different stakeholders across many different departments as possible?
Yeah, we are trying. Yeah, we are trying to drive it as fast as possible into the whole of the organisation. Yes, it's in the core product and how the platform actually works, and it's a huge leap forward. And yes, it's in our call centre operations to drive efficiencies, and that's big numbers in the P&L. But I think the real benefit is in changing the ways, like the day-to-day ways of working, of how the whole, the second biggest cost on my P&L after marketing is staffing line. And so if I can, double the productivity from that, that's huge in terms of profitability. So for me, that's really where I'm trying to push.
Yeah, awesome. Moving forwards to the future, I suppose, of explainable AI, would love to get all of your thoughts on this piece. How do we see explainability evolving as AI becomes more advanced and agentic?
I'll jump in with a couple points. So firstly, I think you really need to invest in tools that show exactly how the AI is working. I don't necessarily mean like the whole infrastructure, because all of that stuff is super nerdy. Most people really don't care about like the tech stack behind it, the AWS or the OpenAI or that infrastructure. They really care about the end result and how it got to that, how it makes its decisions. But I think just ultimately, and something that our customers are getting hands-on every day with right now, is our agents just write up everything they're doing, and it's there in an audit trail that they can review. The auditors can review it, they can just come in and see things, and making sure that you're only using or investing in tools, especially in any like regulated industry or anything like that, where that auditability and explainability is paramount to the product you're using. So I just really think it comes down to you really choosing the right partners for this. There's plenty of AI out there, and I play around with new stuff every single week, and this is across marketing, across ops, across all sorts of different things. Some of it I just instantly turn off because I have zero idea actually what it's doing under the hood, and that really just, how am I going to explain that to my team, to my colleagues? Any end decision, I would look kind of foolish if anything went wrong. So I'm very aware of that.
And then when implementing products, is that always the first thing you're looking at then?
Yeah. Like there's always the basic checks, ISO, SOC, things like that. I really, we deeply care about that as an organisation. But ultimately, like, if I can't get a good read within a few minutes of like actually what it's doing and why it's doing that, I'm completely off the product from the get-go.
Tatiana, Liz?
Sorry to sit on the fence, I think it depends. As Tatiana said, there's different flavours of AI. So we have some great AI tooling that judges the quality of photos that people take. I don't care how that works, nobody cares how that works. We just measure, was it right enough of the time? And so there are some that I think you can manage on output, it doesn't matter. But then into other environments, obviously it really does matter. So I think it's back to just good disciplines of what is the risk, what is the impact of getting it wrong, and how much do I care about that. And then often you're trading performance for insights. I mean, that's definitely true in forecasting models. The best forecasting models often have got neural networks behind them that will give you the most accurate forecast. It will still be wrong. And that's the thing about forecasts, they're always wrong, and you have to be able to know what to do when you've missed or beaten forecast. And if you don't know why the forecast was, then it's a waste of time. So it really depends on the context. But being very clear, this is non-negotiable. We have to be able to trace these items in the right way, and we will trade off on performance as a consequence.
I can also add exactly to the point. Most of the decision-making processes we do as the CFO is a high stake. It either involve high risk, whether it's liquidity, whether it's tax exposure, whether it's financial reporting frameworks. All of these things are quite meaty, and they can be quite expensive to the business overall, right? So generally, it's a high weight on having the right tools in place and being able to trust it. Also, in terms of the forecast, it's great if an AI builds your forecast and you think it's right, but whether the capital provider would believe it is a very different topic, right? Try to explain to your board or your potential debt provider that the numbers you put in some explainable manner are going to deliver a miracle, right? So it's very different. There are many different reasons why it needs to be auditable and traceable and delivering certain understanding of the algorithm can be done. It has to develop over the next, let's say, 2 years or so for us to be able to widely adopt different tools and solutions to actually use it formally and try to push the adoption across the business, because otherwise we just not be able to do it across many different tooling. In some places, obviously, it's easy. Procurement, for example, magic invoices, contracts, POs, all of these things are very well developed already, and risks are probably quite limited, and we can also use it and be happy about amount of automation of accounts payable, let's say, but other areas a little bit more tricky.
Awesome, thank you. Last couple of questions here. Wanted to see, a bit more around what role finance leaders, and if you have any advice for the CFOs and the finance leaders in attendance today around, what role they have in setting the tone for responsible and trustworthy AI adoption moving forward.
Can I jump in as a non-CFO in that? I just think that fundamentally it's in everyone's best interest to push this wherever you are in the business, get really hands-on, play with it. Something we do at Gatekeeper is we've just made a safe space that anyone can go in, do some stuff, share it, and we all kind of learn from that. And we did that early this year. It's probably been one of the best areas to learn. We've got loads of nerdy, smart people doing really weird and wonderful stuff with AI. If you just pin that hopes on just one person or one area, I think there's always challenges there. But regardless of your role, and I think even more so for senior people, you really need to set the direction of what you want to do, how you want to achieve it, and get your team excited about trying out new technology. I think so many people are so scared of this. I think the electricity example was really good earlier on. This is going to be probably quite a big shift in how we exist going forwards, especially in terms of our work lives. So get hands-on and set that direction.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's nothing beats role modelling as a way of demonstrating this is the way to do it. And as a CFO turning up and saying, well, I had a go, this is what I managed to do. You've told me that this is impossible, but look what I did on my own. My CEO does a lot of vibe coding at the weekend when people tell him things are impossible. And so I had a problem, and he said, have a go at some vibe coding. So I started, and I said to ChatGPT, I want to do some vibe coding, how do I get started? And ChatGPT said, you need some mood lighting and some lo-fi beats.
Did it help?
I don't have either of those. But that aside, actually then just getting stuck in and just working with these things, like there's nothing beats having your own hands-on experience and then being able to demonstrate like this is what I did and this is what is possible, and you can all do it too. It's not just the product and engineering team that can do this. Like everybody can, and it every day it gets easier. So just get started.
And that really, moved on to my final question around if you guys could give one piece of advice to the audience today. We talked about it a lot today, but when deploying AI, what would it be to keep innovating whilst ensuring that we still have that trust and transparency moving forwards?
Mine is like this is really boring, this advice, and most people will be like, yeah, well, that's obvious, but it's just like start really small, start quite narrow, especially on the agentic side. Agents seem to work right now where we're at very good with very direct and more narrow instructions. They can access certain different areas, but you don't necessarily want one agent doing a whole range of different jobs. So for example, I'm currently setting up our Gatekeeper for Gatekeeper, and I've got a number of agents there with our team. They're doing really good jobs at reviewing contracts and things like that. I wouldn't ask the contract agent to then go and manage all the vendor due diligence responses at the same time. And for example, I've just deployed 5 agents for our marketing team where they will do one job really well, which might be write a customer email or write a product description. They won't all try to amalgamate this into one. It's just the context becomes too broad for it. So start quite small, measure as well, because everyone likes ROI and showing that it's actually doing something, that it's not vanity. And just keep experimenting.
just to touch on that, how do you measure?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we're part of the Vista Equity portfolio. They're really nice but strict with us around all of this. So every quarter we actually have to do a report that goes to Vista, and we have to benchmark effectively is FTE hours that we would have taken pre-moving to either generative AI, agentic models, and where we're at now. And we've got 2 cycles of that in the books right now. So we're slowly just accumulating this sort of before and after state across the entire business, which is probably the most useful way to do it. I'm not saying this is perfect and there's subjectivity to all of this, but I think it's going to be imperfect on how you measure.
Yeah, I would say start small, but also just accept the imperative, like it is going to happen. And in a couple of years' time, this will be the way we do everything. And so the sooner you get started, the sooner you will get there. And you don't have to eat the elephant, but all in one go. Just start somewhere. And we've had tons of success with just finding small problems. And it's not just, here's my process as I do it now. How do I do an AI version of that? Actually, sometimes the most interesting conversations are what are the problems we've never been able to solve, or the jobs that are such a pain to do. We have a new context. What does that mean about how we could do these things in a different way? And sometimes that is where the big unlocks come from.
I was listening to the Google Fireside Chat and thinking to myself that the gap between enterprise-sized businesses and smaller businesses with smaller budgets and startups and scale-up is widening so much in terms of technological advances, but also the adoption of AI. So obviously Google, and if you spoke with anyone at Uber who started developing AI automated solution many years before it became a buzzword, really. It's so much embedded in the large enterprises' strategy, not just by offering what products they offer, but internal operations and internal risk management, you name it. Just how do we catch up as a small business with small budgets and small resources on creating some sort of a wider framework of embedding AI in some helpful way across different function and business organization. There are different tools and solutions, and AWS, for example, provides something which is in closed servers to integrate with various internal tooling like customer support, many other different things, and it provides some sort of level of automation. So again, potentially this could be one of the solutions of going all across the organization if you're smaller and actually embedding different ways of automation across many different processes at once, but it does feel inevitable, it's scary, and we all fortunately or unfortunately have to do it at the same time as a threat. It's also a massive opportunity, and adds an incredible amount of value in agentic AI product offering and many other different tools, solutions. We can also think about our strategy and growing our revenues, not just the cost or how to fight the whole AI risk situation there.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. That's been really, really insightful. Wanted to open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask the panelists today. Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Is there a microphone on?
Let's put Theo to work.
Hi, thank you for all the insights. I was just curious to hear, because you talked a lot about AI, if you could give some perhaps examples of AI tools that you use in your organizations, because you talked about starting small and vibe coding, and when someone says vibe coding, I think Lovable perhaps, but do you use Lovable or do you use something else? And for those of us who want to start as CFOs that start small, there is so much choice. And then, so yes, please, if you could just give some names and to help us kick off that journey.
Yeah, I'll go first. Lovable is wonderful, and it's just getting better. Replit's another good one. Probably need to be a little bit more natural on coding to get with that. But in terms of actual agents and AI that I'm using day in day out, Gamma for presentations has been like the greatest unlock for me. Like I hate making slides and decks. It's the most boring piece of work I have to do. So that helps a lot. We use ClickUp as a project management solution. We just unlocked all of their AI. So I have agents and AI data fields that self-populate in there, which is really useful. ChatGPT, Claude, using their sort of custom GPTs for repeatable tasks. The Claude has some new bits that you can kind of get to almost act like a mini you, which is quite useful skills within that. But they're kind of like the main ones. We use Gatekeeper within Gatekeeper as well for the AI. But yeah, really Gamma and ClickUp are like my go-to ones. I'm currently looking at Zapier as well, just to connect processes and deploy their agents as well on top of that.
Thank you. Any others?
We have a lovely little tool called Stacks AI that does all our accounts receivables reconciliation, which is magic. And yes, custom GPT. So we've done a custom GPT on our employee handbook. So you can just ask, oh, if I want to cycle to work scheme, how does that work? You get a response. Saved hours out of the people team. We use the custom GPT for our strategy process. And then I just use Claude as a therapist. We can just chat.
The mini you.
Brilliant. I just mentioned we use in close environment of AWS and various ways how they implement in different tooling to automate certain processes, mostly rather than any individual providers and tools.
So, question for all three of you: which foundation, accounting, and financials package that you use, and does that really drive your choice for the AI tools?
I'm probably the worst person to ask, but we are just moving to NetSuite at the moment, and that will probably have a bearing. Yeah, I think you do really have to think about your wider tech stack and the integrations. If I go a little bit more selfishly, like we use HubSpot for our CRM, we're always looking just in general for everything to integrate from a marketing or sales perspective with that. So yeah, I think just having the options for those ecosystems to connect, and then that's kind of the Zapier point I just made. Like that's one reason, is that it gives you a bit more freedom outside of native integrations to make those connections with data and processes.
Yeah, we're on NetSuite. I'm trying to recall if that's ever come up as an issue anyway, and I can't think of anything. It's been fun.
We've just onboarded a tool called Sage Intact, so I chose it for one reason. It's a centralized system that combines contract management, SaaS analytics, and ERP package, and they do some AI and some agentic AI with AP automation, voice matching, a few different things, but for me it's more centralized storage for all of the client contracts, analytics, and accounting all in one tool. Minimize the room for error and all the transfer of data between different platforms.
Yes.
You mentioned probably about 10 to 15 different tools. How do you manage the cost of all of that? Because as we start to implement it, you go, and most of the time because of data security, you've got to go the enterprise solutions. If you start having, say, 10 to 15 of those and needing 500 employees having each of those, how do you manage the balance of cost versus solution?
I mean, to start with, it's quite easy to do some like very low cost testing just to make sure through like a handful of employees whether it's any good. And you know, something like Gamma, for example, we don't have the team package or anything. They didn't have a team package when we started playing with that. It came with really good accreditations like the SOC 2, ISO stuff as part of that offering, as opposed to needing to go up to the enterprise, which is already good. We also do AI onboarding. We do checks for all of our vendors if it's effectively a pass-fail, irrespective now of if it's just a handful of people doing it or 50, 100 of us doing it. But I think it is a really good point. What I have found is a lot of these AI first solutions are pretty cheap from the outset. I kind of it's unbelievable. But like versus something like ClickUp, where we just spent probably close to 6 figures on that upgrade for their AI, it really is quite a hard decision to be like, oh, are we actually going to get that money back in any way? So I don't really have a perfect answer there in that, like, I think it's just a challenge everyone has right now. But that's kind of why I always say start small, because you can just test for a very low cost very fast if it's going to actually be useful for other people in your org.
Awesome. I think we're running over time. I'm with you. So guys, thanks again. Daniel, Liz and Tatiana are also going to be here. So if there's any other questions you guys have, please do ask the guys after the session. Thanks again, guys. That was really good. Thank you very much.